Today, America pauses to remember voices that once filled our homes, shaped our thoughts, and reflected who we were in their time, across music, television, journalism, and film. For lives came to a close, each leaving behind a legacy that still lingers in songs, stories, and shared memory. These were not just public figures, but storytellers of different kinds, capturing emotion, truth, and struggle in their own language. Their careers spanned decades, influencing generations who may not always remember their names, but still feel their impact. Loss arrives quietly, yet its weight is undeniable. In this moment of reflection, we honor for American legends, remembering not only how they died, but how they lived, created, and changed the cultural landscape they leave behind. The quiet news came out of Texas on a cold December morning. Joe Ely was gone, and with him, a certain sound of freedom fell silent. The passing of Joe Ely in December 2025 marked the end of a voice that never tried to be polished or perfect. It was a voice shaped by highways, dance halls, and long nights under open skies for decades. His music carried the restless spirit of Texas, telling stories that felt lived in and true. His death closed a chapter in American music that was built on independence, honesty, and deep respect for roots. Joe Ely was born in Amarillo, Texas, a place where the land stretches wide and the wind never seems to stop moving. That wide open feeling would stay with him for the rest of his life. From an early age, music was not just something he heard, it was something he felt. Country records, rock songs, folk ballads, and the raw sounds of the road all blended together in his imagination. He came of age during a time when music was changing fast. But Ely never chased trends. Instead, he listened closely to the stories around him. He paid attention to working people, lonely travelers, and small-town lives. These stories would later become the heart of his songwriting. In the early 1970s, Joe Ely found his creative home in Austin, Texas. At the time, Austin was becoming a center for something new. Musicians there were blending traditional country with rock, folk, and a spirit of rebellion. This movement would later be known as progressive country, and Ely was right at its center. Austin's clubs were small, crowded, and alive with energy. Ely played alongside friends and fellow musicians who would also become legends. Together, they challenged the idea that country music had to fit into a narrow box. They believed it could be rough, thoughtful, loud, and quiet all at once. One fellow musician later said, "Joe didn't just play music, he opened doors, he showed us we didn't have to choose between tradition and freedom." Joe Ely's early albums reflected this belief. His songs were grounded in country roots, but pushed forward with rock rhythms and folk storytelling. He sang about highways and heartache, freedom and failure. His voice was clear but carried an edge, as if every note came from real experience. As his reputation grew, Ely became known not only as a songwriter but also as a powerful live performer. On stage, he moved with restless energy. His shows felt like conversations between the band and the audience, full of shared emotion and unspoken understanding. Fans often said that seeing Joe Ely live felt personal, even in a crowded room. His songs seemed to speak directly to each listener. There was no distance, no act, just music, delivered honestly. During the late 1970s and 1980s, Ely's career continued to grow beyond Texas. He toured widely and gained fans across the United States and overseas. Still, he never lost his sense of place. Texas remained the center of his creative world. His music did not shy away from hard truths. He sang about loss, uncertainty, and the cost of freedom. But there was always warmth beneath the grit. Even in sad songs, there was a feeling of understanding, as if he was saying, "You are not alone in this." A fan wrote online after his passing, "Joe Ely's songs walked with me through my hardest years. They never judged, they just stayed." Joe Ely was also known for his collaborations. He believed music was meant to be shared. Over the years, he worked with many respected artists, blending voices and styles without ego. These collaborations reflected his deep respect for the craft and for the people who practiced it. He once said in an interview, "Music is a long road. You meet good people along the way. You don't walk it alone." That belief shaped his career and his relationships. Despite his success, Ely remained grounded. He avoided the spotlight when he could and focused on the work itself. Fame never seemed to interest him as much as the next song or the next performance. Those close to him often described him as thoughtful and quietly kind. He listened more than he spoke. When he did speak, his words carried weight. A family member shared in a statement, "Joe lived his life the same way he wrote his songs, with honesty, humility, and a deep love for people." As the years passed, Joe Ely continued to record and perform, even as the music industry changed around him. He did not rush to keep up. Instead, he stayed true to his sound and his values. That consistency earned him lasting respect. Younger musicians looked to him as a guide, not because he offered advice loudly, but because his career itself was a lesson. He proved that it was possible to stay independent and still be heard. One rising artist wrote, "Joe Ely showed us that success doesn't have to mean compromise. You can stay real and still matter." In his later years, Ely's music took on a reflective tone. His songs felt quieter but no less powerful. They carried the weight of time and experience. Listening to them felt like sitting with an old friend who had seen a lot and was willing to share. Even as his health declined, his connection to music never faded. He continued to write, think, and reflect on the stories that had shaped his life. Music remained his language. When news of his death spread, tributes poured in from around the world. Musicians, fans, and writers shared memories and lyrics that had stayed with them. Many spoke of how his songs helped them feel understood. A fellow Texas musician wrote, "Joe Ely didn't chase the world, he let the world come to him. And when it did, he gave it something honest." In Austin, where so much of his journey began, people gathered quietly. Some played his records, others shared stories. There was no loud celebration, just gratitude. Joe Ely's legacy is not tied to charts or awards. It lives in the feeling his music leaves behind. It lives in the way his songs still travel across long roads and late nights. He helped define a sound that belongs to Texas, but speaks to anyone who values freedom and truth. His music reminds listeners that roots matter, but so does the courage to grow. As the final notes of his life fade, what remains is a body of work that continues to breathe. His songs are still being discovered, still being passed from one listener to another. In the end, Joe Ely gave more than music. He gave permission to be honest, permission to be restless, permission to stay true. And as his voice echoes on, carried by records and memories, Joe Ely is remembered not just as a musician, but as a storyteller of the American road. His journey may have ended, but the sound of his freedom will always remain. The news arrived quietly, confirmed in the early hours of December, and by morning, the world of television felt noticeably still. Anthony Geary passed away in December 2025, closing a chapter that helped define American daytime television for more than 40 years. For millions of viewers, his face was familiar, trusted, and deeply tied to daily life. His death marked the loss of an actor whose work became part of the emotional rhythm of television history. Born with a natural curiosity for performance, Anthony Geary found his calling early. Acting was not just a profession for him, it was a way to explore human emotion, conflict, and connection. Long before fame arrived, he approached his craft with seriousness and care. His journey led him to television at a time when daytime dramas were still finding their modern voice. These shows air quietly during the day, yet they carry powerful emotional weight. Geary understood that impact. He believed stories told in living rooms could matter just as much as stories told on the biggest screens. That belief became clear when he stepped into the role that would define his career as Luke Spencer on General Hospital. Anthony Geary did more than play a character. He shaped an era. Luke was complex, flawed, charming, and deeply human. Viewers did not simply watch him, they felt him. At first, Luke Spencer was not meant to become a cultural figure, but something happened on screen. Geary brought unexpected depth to the role. His performance carried humor, pain, regret, and growth. The character evolved, and so did the audience's connection to him. Day after day, year after year, viewers tuned in. They watched Luke love, fail, change, and endure. Through it all, Anthony Geary gave the character honesty. Even in dramatic moments, there was restraint. Even in silence, there was meaning. A longtime viewer later wrote, "Anthony Geary didn't act at us, he invited us in." Throughout the 1980s and 1990s, General Hospital became a centerpiece of daytime television. Storylines reached record audiences, characters became household names. At the center of it all was Geary's steady presence. He never rushed scenes. He allowed emotions to breathe. His work earned widespread respect within the industry. Awards followed, but Geary never treated them as a goal. For him, the work itself mattered most. He often stepped away from the spotlight, choosing privacy over publicity. Behind the scenes, colleagues described him as thoughtful and intense in a quiet way. He prepared deeply. He asked questions. He respected the writing, the crew, and the audience. One fellow actor shared after his passing, "Anthony raised the level of everyone around him. When he was in a scene, you listened harder." What made Geary stand out was his willingness to let a character change. Luke Spencer aged, he matured, he reflected, and Geary allowed that evolution to feel natural. He did not hold on to the past version of the role. He embraced growth. This approach mirrored his own life. Away from the camera, Geary lived quietly. He valued reading, travel, and reflection. He resisted the idea that fame defined identity to him. Acting was something you did, not something you were over the decades. He stepped away from General Hospital more than once. Each departure felt emotional for viewers, each return felt meaningful. His exits were never treated lightly because the connection was real. A social media tribute read, "Luke Spencer leaving always felt like losing a family member." That was Anthony Geary's gift. As television evolved, so did audience habits. Streaming platforms rose, attention spans shortened, yet Geary's work remained relevant. New viewers discovered old episodes and felt the same pull. The emotions still landed. The performances still held. Younger actors often spoke about watching him study a scene. He did not overplay moments. He trusted silence. He trusted the audience. One television writer noted, Anthony Geary understood that daytime drama could be subtle. He proved it. In his later years, Geary remained selective about his appearances. When he did return, it was with purpose. He wanted stories that mattered. He wanted truth in the material. His final chapters on screen carried a sense of reflection. There was calm in his performances, a sense of closure. Viewers could feel it, even if they did not yet have words for it. When news of his death spread, tributes came from every corner of the television world. Fans shared clips, quotes, and memories. Writers spoke about scenes that stayed with them for decades. Actors thanked him for setting a standard. A family statement described him as a private man with a deep love for storytelling and a quiet pride in his work. Anthony Geary never chased fame. Yet fame followed him, shaped by trust and time. He became part of people's routines, their afternoons, their lives. That kind of connection cannot be manufactured. His impact on daytime television is lasting. He helped show that soap operas could carry emotional truth, that characters could grow with their audience, that long-form storytelling could be meaningful. Luke Spencer will always be remembered. But beyond the character, Anthony Geary will be remembered as an artist who respected viewers enough to give them something real. As television continues to change, his work stands as a reminder of what patience, depth, and commitment can create. His performances remain, his influence continues, and as the screen fades to black on a remarkable life, Anthony Geary is remembered not just as a star, but as the face that helped daytime television find its soul. The news arrived without noise, confirmed quietly in December, and for many readers, the page felt emptier than usual that morning. Robert Jacob Samuelson passed away in December 2025, marking the loss of one of America's most disciplined and trusted economic voices. For decades, he helped explain complicated ideas in ways that felt clear, grounded, and honest. His death closed a chapter in public life shaped by clarity, restraint, and civic responsibility. Samuelson built his career on a simple belief: economics matter because it touched everyday lives. Jobs, prices, taxes, debt, and growth were not abstract theories to him. They were forces shaping families, communities, and futures. He believed people deserved to understand them. Born with a sharp mind and a steady temperament, Samuelson entered journalism with purpose. He did not seek attention, he sought understanding. From early on, he showed a rare ability to take complex systems and describe them without distortion or drama. That skill found a lasting home at the Washington Post, where his columns became required reading for policymakers, students, and everyday citizens. Later, his work at Newsweek expanded his reach even further. Across platforms, his voice remained consistent, his writing style stood apart. There was no shouting, no slogans, just careful sentences, built on facts and logic. He believed strong ideas did not need decoration. They needed accuracy, a longtime editor once said. Bob trusted readers, he never talked down to them. Samuelson wrote during periods of economic growth, recession, inflation, and crisis. Through each shift, he resisted easy answers, he warned against extremes. He challenged assumptions from both political sides. His independence became one of his defining traits. In his columns, he often returned to responsibility, personal responsibility, government responsibility, shared responsibility. He believed economics was not just about numbers, but about choices and consequences. His arguments were not always popular, but they were always clear. Even critics respected his discipline. He did not write to please. He wrote to explain. Readers trusted him because he explained not only what was happening, but why it mattered. He connected policy decisions to daily life. A change in interest rates became a change in mortgages. A budget debate became a question of long-term stability. One reader wrote online after his passing, "Robert Samuelson made me feel smarter, without making me feel small." Over the years, his columns shaped national conversations. Lawmakers read him, professors assigned him, journalists studied his approach. He helped set a standard for economic commentary rooted in seriousness and Restraint. Samuelson was not a television personality. He did not chase soundbites. He believed print demanded patience. He believed readers were willing to think if given the chance. That belief never left him. Even as media changed, as attention spans shortened, his writing remained steady, clear. Paragraphs, logical flow. No wasted words. Colleagues often described his work ethic as quiet but intense. He researched deeply. He revised carefully. He respected deadlines and facts equally, a fellow columnist once noted. Bob's power came from discipline. He never let opinion outrun evidence. Beyond economics, Samuelson cared deeply about civic life. He worried about debt, entitlement promises, and long-term planning. He believed honesty today was kinder than denial tomorrow. His tone was firm but never cruel. He criticized ideas, not people. He believed disagreement was part of democracy. But clarity was its foundation. In private life, Samuelson remained reserved. He valued conversation, reading, and reflection. He avoided the spotlight and let his work speak for him. As the years passed, his writing grew more reflective. He often looked back at earlier debates, acknowledging where assumptions held and where reality surprised everyone. That willingness to reassess earned him lasting respect, a younger economist shared after his death. Robert Samuelson taught me that clarity is a form of respect. When news of his passing spread, tributes came from journalists, academics, and readers alike. Many spoke of how his columns helped them understand the world during uncertain times. A family statement described him as a man devoted to truth, clarity, and the belief that understanding matters. Robert Jacob Samuelson leaves behind more than articles and columns. He leaves behind a method, a way of thinking, a reminder that public debate works best when it is informed, calm, and honest. In a time of noise and division, his voice stood for balance, for explanation over outrage, for responsibility over comfort. His legacy lives on in classrooms, newsrooms, in quiet moments when readers pause to think more carefully. His words continue to guide those who believe that clarity is not weakness, but strength. And as his work remains on the page, steady and thoughtful, Robert Jacob Samuelson is remembered as the economist who spoke plainly and helped a nation understand itself just a little better. The confirmation came quietly in December without headlines or spectacle, and for a moment, the film world seemed to pause and look inward. Peter Greene passed away in December 2025, closing a chapter in American cinema defined by fearlessness and truth. He was an actor who stepped into darkness without blinking and came back carrying something human. His death marked the loss of a performer who never softened reality, but instead revealed it with honesty. Greene built a career by choosing roles many avoided. He did not chase comfort or approval. He was drawn to characters living on the edge, shaped by pain, violence, and broken systems. Through them, he showed audiences what vulnerability looked like when stripped of safety. Born and raised in New Jersey, Peter Greene grew up far from red carpets and premieres. His early life was marked by struggle, and those experiences stayed with him. They did not fade when the camera turned on. They became part of his craft from the beginning. Greene approached acting as something serious and personal. He believed characters had to be understood, not judged. Even the most dangerous figures he played carried traces of fear, longing, or loss. That depth became his signature. In the early 1990s, as American cinema leaned into raw storytelling, Greene found his place. Independent films and bold directors were pushing boundaries. Greene fit naturally into that moment. His presence was intense, unpredictable, and real. Audiences first took notice when he appeared in films that refused to look away from brutality. His performances were not flashy, they were unsettling. He brought a quiet menace that felt grounded, not exaggerated. One filmmaker later said, "Peter didn't pretend to be dark, he understood it." Greene's work in Pulp Fiction placed him inside a cultural landmark. Though his screen time was brief, his impact lingered. He proved that even small roles could leave a deep impression when played with truth. Soon after, wider audiences recognized him through The Mask, in a film known for humor and spectacle. Greene brought sharp contrast, his performance grounded the fantasy, reminding viewers that danger could feel real, even in a comic world. That balance became part of his strength. He could stand inside heightened stories and still make emotions believable. He did not overplay menace. He let it sit quietly, often making scenes more unsettling. Throughout the 1990s, Greene appeared in a steady stream of films. Many were gritty, some were uncomfortable. All carried his stamp. He did not repeat himself, but he returned often to themes of power, violence, and vulnerability. Critics noted how his eyes carried weight. Even when silent, he told a story. Even when his characters acted cruelly, there was something fragile beneath the surface. A film critic once wrote, "Peter Greene made you afraid, then made you wonder why." Behind the camera, Greene was known as serious and focused. He prepared deeply. He asked questions about motivation and history. He wanted to know where a character came from and what they feared most. Co-stars often described him as quiet between takes. He conserved energy when the camera rolled. He delivered everything at once. One fellow actor shared after his passing, "Peter didn't act evil. He acted wounded. That's why it stayed with you." As the film industry changed, roles like Greene's became less common. Studios leaned towards safer stories and clearer heroes. Greene did not fully follow that shift. His career slowed, but his reputation did not fade. For many young filmmakers, he became a reference point, a reminder of a time when American cinema allowed discomfort, when characters could be broken and still worth watching. Fans continued to discover his work through late-night screenings and streaming platforms. His performances aged well. They remained honest. They did not rely on trends or effects. Away from the screen, Greene's life was complex. He faced personal struggles and spoke openly about them later in life. He never tried to present himself as flawless. That openness deepened the respect many felt for him. In interviews, he often spoke about acting as survival, a way to process pain, a way to tell the truth without explaining it. He once said, "I play these people so they don't stay hidden." In his later years, Greene appeared less often, but his presence remained strong in memory. Fans shared scenes and lines online, revisiting moments that had unsettled and moved them. When news of his death spread, tributes came quietly but sincerely. Directors praised his courage. Actors thanked him for showing what commitment looked like. A social media tribute read, "Peter Greene showed us the cost of violence by letting us feel it, not glamorize it." Another wrote, "He made darkness human, and that took bravery." Peter Greene's legacy is not measured by awards or box office numbers. It lives in moments of discomfort that led to reflection, in characters that forced audiences to confront parts of society often ignored. He helped define a period in American film when truth mattered more than comfort, when stories were allowed to be sharp, painful, and real. His performances remind viewers that darkness is not empty. It is filled with history, emotion, and consequence. By stepping into it, Greene gave audiences understanding, not escape. As the lights dim on his career, what remains is a body of work that refuses to soften reality. His films continue to challenge, disturb, and resonate. Peter Greene will be remembered as an actor who did not look away, who carried pain with honesty, who turned fear into insight. And as his work continues to be watched and remembered, Peter Greene stands as proof that even the darkest characters can reveal something deeply human. And that truth, once shown, never truly disappears.